Live from the Counterpunch Media Mobile Studios in Grand Blanc, Michigan, it's time for real lives, real families, real fitness. It's time for Derek Noel Fitness.
What's going on, everyone? Derek here, coming to you actually live from Top Gun Fitness facility in Shelby Charter Township in Michigan. We went on the road today because we were sitting down with firefighter, personal trainer, and owner of Top Gun Fitness, Erik Evans. And today is an awesome show. We're talking about how to individualize your training because templates are not for everyone. Can you follow a template? Yes, but if you were trying to make as much progress as you can as a singular person, which all of us should, with the only people we should be competing with is ourselves, for the most part, unless you're an athlete, obviously. But a lot of information is going to get thrown your way with this today. We're talking about this. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments as we're talking. I'll make sure that I am in that feed answering them as they go on. Let's sit back, relax, and enjoy this interview with Erik Evans. I'm sitting here with Mr. Erik Evans, owner of Top Gun. Actually, I'll let you go ahead and just tell them a little bit about what you do, what things you have going on, stuff like that.
All right, yeah, first and foremost, I want to thank you very much for having me on tonight. I'm excited to talk to your audience, and we're great to have you at the facility today. So, but yeah, a little background on myself. So my name's Erik Evans. I'm owner and director of strength and conditioning at Top Gun Performance in Shelby Township, Michigan. We opened the facility about 3 years ago. I personally work with all different types of clients, average Joe, average Jane, youth athlete, and I also do some work with some Detroit Red Wings as well. Other than that, the other side of me, I'm also a full-time firefighter paramedic for the Charter Township of Harrison. I've been doing that for approximately about 12 years. I've been with Harrison Township Fire, and married, 2 kids. So that pretty much sums it up for me.
So busy guy.
Yeah, busy guy.
Busy guy. And actually being a firefighter will probably come into play talking about yourself a little bit, especially talking about shift work and stuff like that, which can be really big. So actually today we're talking a little bit about how to individualize. So this episode, this interview is going to be really awesome for people who are looking to kind of build their own workout programming, or even think about considering like how they should go about it. I really recommend, honestly, trying to take some notes with this because there's a lot of information. Erik is super knowledgeable about this stuff, and yeah, I'm just gonna let you kind of take it from here.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about training, I think there's a lot of things that you need to consider, and I think probably the best way that we break this down is we can talk about maybe if you're just average Joe, average Jane, looking for some advice as far as how to get started, and maybe some initial considerations that you need to consider whilst getting started. And then obviously if you're more towards the athlete side of things, it can be a little bit more in depth with the actual programming, the dieting, nutrition. But I think at the beginning, I think there's a couple of questions that you need to ask yourself. Number one, what is the goal? That's the most important thing. And a lot of people, I think, have a goal in mind, but they necessarily don't have a strategy in how to actually get to that goal. So that's where once you've established exactly what your goal is, it's like now we have to start looking at some other considerations. What are some limitations that individual may have? Are there some physical limitations? Are there some time constrictions that they may have as far as being able to balance work, life, family, social life? There's a lot going on. And what you find a lot of people, especially these days, a lot of people are juggling 2 jobs. So it's where do you find the time to actually crunch and fit all this stuff in? That, as a coach, I find that probably one of the biggest challenges to actually working with clients is trying to balance a schedule for them. But a lot of it is, I think, it's realizing certain habits that people engage in, and they don't even realize that they're engaging in them. Like as far as like a lot of times it's like, well, I don't have time to go to the gym, or I don't have time for this. The time is there. And you and I kind of talked a little bit early last week, and for those who know me, obviously being a full-time firefighter, I work 24-hour shifts, and my schedule is pretty packed. The days that I go in on duty, I'm up at 4 a.m. I have clients that I start here at 5. in the morning. So I'll train from 5 to 6 and then 6 to 7. 7 o'clock I'll commute to work, and then I work a 24-hour shift from 8 a.m. all the way to 8 a.m. And the unique thing about that is my job, you don't, there's no schedule that's put in that job. An emergency call can come in at any time, so it can literally throw, if you have a planned meal in, if you're on a restricted diet and you're trying to put diets in and trying to get all your meals in at a certain point in time. So once again, you have to find something that's practical, and I've had to balance and find things that are practical and kind of weave my way in and out of like what is the norm to create something that works for me in my actual work life and my social life as well, and my family life. So, being with that, and then it's like I get off at 8 a.m. From duty, and I start here at 9:30 in the morning, and I'll go to about 1, 2 o'clock training, go home for a couple hours, and then I'm back here to about 7 o'clock at night on most nights, and press the repeat button. So it's like, how do you do it? And I think that's like one of the biggest things. But as far as like with me, like I said, you have to establish, okay, what is your goal? What's the end game? What are my limitations? And obviously just kind of spoke on, I have some time constrictions. Yep. So I used to beat myself up if I didn't get, certain workouts in as, how I would like them, or if I wasn't able to get, this amount of time in for this style of training that I was doing that day. And at some point in time, I think the maturity side eventually will come out, and you're like, this is what's practical for me, and I have to be okay with that.
I know a lot of people think that they get really upset if they miss one workout, and that one workout individually won't make or break it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't actually realize that, I've found. They think that they have to be working out, or I have some people who I know who are like, I have to work out 7 days a week, and it's like, why? Yep. You have other things. You really need that balance and practicality. Sometimes you're not going to be able to spend an hour and a half in a gym, especially if you're like a firefighter where you have to be on call, you're like at the station or you're out doing something. I know nurses have a lot of that where you don't know if there's going to be an emergency in the nurse or in the hospital or in the ER or anything like that. I've worked with quite a few nurses, and it's just getting them to try and find that balance too.
Sure.
And so that's definitely a big one.
Yeah, and it is challenging as a coach, but the best advice I can say is don't beat yourself up. Find something that's practical for yourself, whether that be the training, whether that be your diet and nutrition. You have to have a life around fitness. And I think some people get this fallacy that it's, okay, work, go to work, pay the bills, get all my meals in, work out, and then go to bed and repeat. And it doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to be a prisoner into that. But, kind of some key things that, as far as like, we talked about the overall goal, and it's like what's practical. We got to look at, like I said, your occupation, your home life, your social life, and then also limitations. And we'll get into limitations in a little bit, because that's actually a really interesting topic that maybe some of your viewers haven't really considered of, oh yeah, I do kind of have that limitation. How do I work around it? So, yeah, I think when we're talking about goals, initially you have to determine the desired result or the outcome of what we want to achieve. I'm kind of going off a little bit of a PowerPoint, so I don't ramble on too much for you guys and bore you guys. So, but like I said, trying to achieve, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to achieve lean muscle gain? Are you trying to lose a large amount of adipose tissue fat? Are you kind of becoming more athlete, where you want to become the cliche, bigger, stronger, faster? Or do you just want to improve your overall health? Once you've established like how you want to do that, then you're kind of like, okay, now let's put the strategy in play. And then, like I said, practicality, and we kind of talked about that. And the main thing that we notice when it comes to practicality, is it's based on time and current lifestyle. Finances also come into play on this as well. Some people would like a personal trainer, but unfortunately they currently don't have the money for it. So obviously having a coach or a personal trainer is a major upswing on how progress can be gained. However, some people just don't have that option all the time. So with that being said, you have to look at all those things, and practicality is a big thing. So like I said, make something, whether it's a diet. Most people can't do the bodybuilding, I have to eat 5, 6, 7 times a day. they can't do that. And even though like a lot of clients that we work with and we coach, that's the ideal way of how we want to do things with them. It's not always practical, so you may have to look at other types of dieting. There may be things like certain things in their diet that they don't like. I mean, how many times have you ran into clients where you're trying to somewhat wiggle a nutrition plan together for them, and you know, this is off the table, fish is off the table, you know, and then it's all of a sudden like you have this box and the box keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And then when that box gets smaller, well, now it's the amount of variety that you can give them so you don't keep the diet boring, gets smaller as well.
Yep.
So now you have to come up with more creative ways to try to keep them on track, curb cravings, so on and so forth. So, but yeah, I mean, that's definitely some things. So, you know, and like I said, we talked about work. You know, how many hours does somebody work? You mentioned nurses, and I actually, I've actually had a couple clients in the past I've coached that have been RNs, and some of them, they work 12 plus hours shifts. So, and they don't have time to stop and eat whole meals for 15 minutes. So what are some things that you need to do to get creative with that? Well, as coaches, we have to get creative and say, okay, well, when you wake up in the morning, maybe think about, get the whole meal in here. And then when you're in this part of your shift, could you take 2 minutes, slap some peanut butter on a slice of Ezekiel bread or 2 slices or whatever, however many that your macros fits, and down a protein shake real quick and go back to work. You know, at least they're actually able to get some type of consistency in, because what I end up finding is that when you don't make something that's practical for that person, they end up failing in the long run. If the workout's not practical, the timing of the workouts are not practical, the finances are not practical, the dieting, nutrition is not practical for them, you're probably setting that client up for failure down the road.
Yeah, I found that too a lot. There are a couple nurses who have come up to me and straight up said they don't have 15 minutes. And exactly, it's, well, can we find 2 minutes where you could just make yourself a protein shake real quick, throw some carbs in there, eat some carbs, literally eat a slice of toast or something like that, and be able to get those nutrients in that you do need to get.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't even think about that. They think, oh, like a protein shake is just a shake. For some people, sometimes those have to turn into full meals.
Yeah.
If you have to liquid diet one or two meals, then sometimes you just have to do it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't even think about that because they think of the protein shake as that snack.
Yep.
Instead of, oh, hey, like I can make a full meal around this when you need to, if you're working a 12 to 14 hour shift.
Yeah.
Or if you know that, oh crap, I probably you run into this as a firefighter, like you go to sit down to start eating, or you go to heat up your food and then all of a sudden a call comes in and you literally can't eat.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I'll just like run and make my protein shake real quick and I'll call it that.
Right.
Good there.
Yeah, and I've had to have like strategies like, and this is where you have to get a little creative, and sometimes like even if you don't have a personal trainer, you may have to get a little creative on things and be like, okay, well, you know what? I know at certain parts that there's going to be calls, so sometimes what I do is I'll take my meal prep bag, I'll toss it on the truck with something that I know that's not going to spoil. You know, I'll put, you know, like some water in a shaker bottle. I'll put a couple packages of protein inside there. You know, like a whey protein powder or a matrix powder. Couple slices of Ezekiel bread, some almonds. So I know that, like, okay, you know what? At least during a set time, when I'm on my way back or whatever it may be, I can try to get that meal in or just down that meal, and it's quick and easy. Obviously, it's nowhere when I'm working, but you know, when there's some type of downtime in between, I can try to squeeze that in. Because the thing is, even with my job, you have to stay well nourished. You have to stay hydrated. You got to remember, most people don't realize, like when we actually do go into a structure fire, the amount of weight, the amount of gear, the amount of heat that we're dealing with, you get dehydrated really, really quick. Oh yeah, extremely quickly. And you know, we're kind of like the tactical athlete, so you have to be able to perform at your job. But sometimes it's very, very difficult for individuals to perform at that job just because of the environments that they're working in. So, but it's like, I guess the point I'm trying to nail home is you have to stay up on your hydration and nutrition through that shift. So get creative. If something's not working for you, try to find something that's creative, that does work for you. And if you are being coached, maybe have a conversation with your coach. If you don't feel that, that current set protocol or blueprint that's set for you is working, maybe have that conversation, say, hey, what would you think about maybe if we change this, maybe make it a little bit more practical for me? Make sense?
Yep.
So, and then some other things, I think, we talked about limitations a little bit. And I said that we'd get back to limitations, and limitations are actually a really interesting thing that I don't think a lot of people actually really do take into account, and we just kind of blow through some of these that, past and current injuries. I see, especially with athletes, these guys, like, they're just so into their training and so into improving their overall performance, even if they are injured sometimes, they just kind of push through it. And you got to look at that, and even if you're average Joe, average Jane, if you're hurting somewhere and you're not taking the proper recovery steps to recover that injury that you're currently going through, chances are that, number one, it's not going to get any better. Number two, you're probably going to compensate somewhere else, get injured, or even hurt it even more. So that's where it's like proper post-recovery is extremely important. I think the best recovery out of the gate is nutrition and sleep. We do a lot of extra things on the side. I think if your nutrition and your sleep are on point, like a lot of people will go and they'll get deep tissue massages, and they'll go and, which are great. I get them every week. The one individual that we have out of here, Sabrina, she's by far one of the best sports massage therapists I've ever worked with, and she's done wonders with me. But once again, they don't take care of those things. They don't take care of things from a structural standpoint, which affects overall range of motion. And I mean with that is chiropractics. If there is a structural issue, you have to go ahead and you have to make sure that you're taking care of that structural issue and getting structural correction, because overall structural damage is going to affect overall mobility and functionality. So these are other things that people don't really consider. They just kind of push through it. Health problems. You got to look at as a coach, this is something that we have to key in a lot on, is what are our current health problems that our clients have. If we're establishing a diet for somebody and they have some type of thyroid issue, we need to make sure we do that. And one thing I had this conversation with you, I've had it with several people, any client that walks in and I sit down with and we decide to work together, I have them go get labs drawn. Because I need to make sure that internally there's not something going on that if we're trying to we can put a strategy together, but there's something that, like for example, they have some type of thyroid issue, right? And we're trying to go ahead and we're trying to establish a maintenance calorie with a diet, and it's all over the place, and we're going through and we're trying, this individual's trying to cut weight, and we're keep throwing things at the wall and nothing's working. Well, there could have been an underlying issue that we missed that we could have known right out of the gate. And we're here to help them. So, draw your labs. That's a huge thing. The list goes on and on. Are you working with somebody whom is a diabetic? Are there any cardiovascular problems? These lists go on and on and on. So those are just things as coaches that we need to take into consideration when we're designing a program for somebody. I mean, we don't want to run somebody through, a metabolic conditioning session when we know that they have, they had 2 stents put in and, a heart attack a year ago that would, and they're not in the best of health right now. That's more of a slower approach, and we have to auto-regulate what we're doing for that particular individual. So poor stability, mobility, and we talked about that from a structural issue already. Lack of overall physical strength. That's something that takes time. It's a marathon, not a race. And genetics. That's probably one of the biggest ones, is genetics that we fight as coaches. Some people are genetical freaks. And it's really easy, like if they're trying to go through a weight loss, it's really, really easy to shred weight off of them. And then there's other people, they may not have the best genetics. I came from the opposite end of the spectrum. If you would have known me, I think it was like 7 years ago, I weighed 120 pounds. Right now I'm just shy of 200. My genetics were always, and how I was living my lifestyle kept me at that weight. However, obviously I wanted to change, so I made the proper intelligent steps to do that.
Yep.
But, once again, genetics are a big thing that we have to consider as well. So make sure that, like I said, I guess the point I'm trying to hit home here is take care of yourself, recover yourself. Make sure that you don't have any underlying medical problems, and if you do, make sure you address them. And if you're working with a coach, make sure that coach is aware of it. And if you are a coach, make sure that you know that this type of stuff's going on with these particular clients.
Yeah, for sure. The more you know as a coach, the more you can help them.
Yeah.
And the same thing with clients. Don't feel like when it comes to medical things that the coach doesn't need to know about it. We, as coaches, in order to be the most effective coaches we can, need to know basically everything that's going on physically with you.
Yep.
Because like he was saying, if you have a thyroid issue and we need to alter your nutrition for that, all of a sudden you're not able to do things because you're on a high carb diet, and you have something like Hashimoto's, which is a whole other conversation. All of a sudden you're going to be running into issues and no idea why, because you have undiagnosed Hashimoto's, for example. Us knowing those things and getting those labs done, if you have insurance, if you don't have insurance, they can be super pricey, but if you have insurance, they're usually covered for a small copay. So one thing that I usually recommend is if people have insurance, they just go get their labs done.
Yeah.
Having that blood work done will help a lot. Plus, it'll help make, it's like the checkup for your body. If your body was a car, you take it in, you get it, you get that checkup. Exactly what you're doing when you get that blood work done and you have all those tests ran.
Absolutely, and as an individual, why would you not want to establish baselines before you start a process? You know what I mean? Getting your labs checked, getting a physical done, that is going to establish some baselines. And then on the training side of things, that's another thing that we see go out the window quite a bit, is coaches won't establish baselines. So, we want to go ahead, we want to make sure that, we establish some good baselines and some easy things, that are really easy for you guys to do in the gym. To establish some baselines is there's all different types of formulas online as far as establishing, 1 rep max, so, establish strength zones in certain lifts. And then what you want to do is, if strength is your overall goal in performance, work with an 80-85%, somewhere inside there. But I also have athletes that I've worked with where they're going through injury, so we have to back off on that a little bit and deload a little bit for them. So, like I said, it's establishing baselines of a vertical jump, a standing broad jump. Establishing little baselines like this can be some good telltale signs if you're making progression over time. And then obviously keeping track of what you're doing in the gym. A lot of people, how many people these days, and we see it all the time, how many people these days you see going to the gym, and good conversation to have here real quick because I know we're short on time, but going to the gym and they have absolutely no notebook in their hand, they're not documenting any data of what they're doing, and they're just randomly going through things. How are you supposed to gain progress if you don't know what you're doing from week to week? And then we become king in our comfort zone.
Yep.
You'll see people do the same type, and you may be, if you're watching, you may actually be this individual, and I used to actually. I was king in my comfort zone. I would do the same lifts. I would do, I would generally stick with right around the same weight. I wasn't really keeping track of things. This is when I was in my younger years, not as experienced as I am now, but, and then you would sit there and you'd, kick the dirt on the way out of why am I not gaining any progress? Oh, because you're not stimulating the muscle differently, so play around with collecting data, play around with different rep ranges, play around with actually seeing your progression from week to week, jotting and taking notes. But I mean, I know we don't have much time, but is there anything else I think that you maybe wanted me to cover real quick? Or
honestly, I think we covered a lot. We've already covered basically working with different scheduling, which is a big one. And we've talked about coaching and things like that. We're going to hit a back workout too, I think, which is going to be a good time. But I just wanted to highlight that king of the comfort zone thing.
Yeah.
And I think literally everyone has fallen into this. So
Absolutely.
Everyone is super relatable. It's like the International Chest Day. You bench press every day, and you get stuck in your, for some people will choose the generic, like I do 3 sets of 10 over and over and over again with the same weight over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And then maybe if I'm feeling froggy, 6 months down the line, I'll add 5 pounds to it.
Yeah.
Tracking and logging everything is going to allow you to see and load appropriately, and not every day is going to be like a best day.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people a lot of people get really upset if all of a sudden they're not adding 2.5 kilos or something like that to their lifts every time. Look at me busting out the metric numbers.
Yeah.
But they get upset. That's like 5 pounds every lift.
Yeah.
They get really upset if they don't do that from week to week to week to week to week. And your body is going to hit a point where it can't do that as quickly anymore.
Sure.
And that's when you really need to start tracking. When you're first starting out in the gym, it might be okay to keep doing that and adding it, but you're going to hit that point where you need to be a lot more systematic about how you go about it.
Yeah, and real quick, I know, like I said, I know we're short on time, but one big thing too is when you go into the gym, if you don't know what this is, do some research on deloading. Do some research on something called auto-regulation. So a lot of times we want to come in and we want to lift heavy every single week. But there's going to be a point, and there's going to be a pendulum swing. If you're doing it correctly, at some point you have to come and you have to pit and you have to deload, meaning that you're going to back the weight off a little bit. And you'll actually see increases in results over time when you do deload as opposed to just go hard, because at some point in time you're going to plateau. The other thing is auto-regulation. Before we get out of here, auto-regulation is, if you're coming into the gym and you just got over the flu, say it's in December, you just got over the flu, I'm just using an example here, you're probably not going to be hitting PRs in the gym. No. So back off on the weight a little bit, do a little bit of a deload. That's okay to do because your body just got over getting completely annihilated, with an actual virus. So you want to take those times to consider auto-regulation, consider having scheduled deloads, or maybe unscheduled. You just may have to do it early, pit a little early, and that's okay. Because eventually, I think over time, you're going to see your progression actually increase if you take those types of strategies.
Funny how a little bit of rest from destroying yourself in the gym kind of helps you out.
Yep.
Kind of like a little bit of rest really helps you out.
Absolutely.
And I think that's all the time we actually have for today.
Yeah.
So Erik, thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I really feel like this will help out a lot of people watching.
Yep.
Because a lot of people are the average Joes. They're starting to go into their gym and start to do things.
Yep.
I know in the Grand Blanc area, which is where I'm based out of, there's a bunch of different gyms opening up that people are going to have access to. Because before they only had like one or two like big box gyms.
Sure.
And if you are one of those people who wants to add strength training into what you're doing, which I do in most cases recommend, hopefully this really helps you kind of figure out where you're going. And of course, if you have no idea where you're going, please look for an expert and shoot them a message. Most experts that I know either don't get messages and would like to. Like for myself, I love being able to help people. I was 240 something pounds at one point, so I went the opposite direction. So I know what it was like to be able to do that by myself, and it was really difficult to learn everything.
Sure.
Luckily, I fell in love with fitness and I love researching it, but other people might not have that same passion for what I'm doing. So please reach out to whatever expert it is. Please do not be afraid to at least ask a personal trainer or something like that for a consult. They might be able to give you some quick little tips, even if you can't afford them, because for some people price is an option. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of your night, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, real quick, actually, before we go, we're not cutting this short just yet. Where can they find you?
Oh, God. Where can you find me? I don't know if you want to find me. Anyways, no, you can find me on you can find me on my socials. Erik Evans on Facebook. Just look for the goofy guy with the resting, you know what face, and then you can find me on Instagram at Erik Andrew Evans. And then if you want, feel free to just shoot me a friend request if you have any questions for me or anything like that, or you want me to follow up on something maybe that we kind of touched on. Feel free to give me a message. Just give me a day or two to get back to you, or you can go ahead. You can email me at topgunfitness.erik, E-R-I-K, Evans, E-V-A-N-S, @gmail.com.
And we'll put all those in the show notes. Again, thank you very much.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate it.
Have a nice night. So there you have it. A nice conversation with Erik Evans, firefighter, owner of Top Gun, and just overall knowledgeable guy. If you have any questions or comments about this episode, make sure you drop them in the comments below. I'll be sure to shoot out an answer. Erik may be watching as well, so he might shoot a response here or there. If you'd like to see more people, or you have any interest in having a certain person on the show, please also drop them in the comments below and tag them in it. That tag will help out a lot, because then they'll become aware of it and, you know, help it out. If you know anyone who can get something out of this one, which I know a lot of people could, because there's a lot of good information in this episode today, talking about goals and things like that. Please like and share this with their friends. You can put it right on their wall, or you could share it to your story. That would be great. I would really appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Like I said, I am Noel from Derek Noel Fitness. You've been watching Derek Noel Fitness Live. Have a great night, everyone.